It's on that shorty new year, shorty new year. Come along to Camp Shorty. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, it's Shorty New Year. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. Camp Shorty is where you will find family. Our beautiful minds will greet you with glee. At Camp Shorty, you can shine and shine bright because Miss Shorty Camp Leader is a fucking delight. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. Your opinions are valid, you can fly like a bird. With your comments on screen, you will always be heard. It's the best chat on YouTube, you can cuss all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say cunt. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. Let your raw cats be free, so liberating. We stay on topic, although occasionally things get a bit feral, but it's clear to see. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year. Camp Shorty is where you will find family. Our beautiful minds will greet you with glee. At Camp Shorty, you can shine and shine bright because Miss Shorty Camp Leader is a fucking delight.
Hi, shorties. Hello. It's good to see you again. And late, guys, late but early. Earlier than 7, but later than the scheduled time. Oh, look, you know me. It's endearing. It's iconic. Brand new pack of pig's ears for the kids. Yikes. R.I.P. John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe. Okay. Hi. Let me get my cat eye specs. Oh, Simi, thank you so much. One of the blouses. I ironed 2. Well, blame being late on that. And I was like, I'm not sure which. They were both black. And I thought, I like this one with a bow. I'm so civilized. It's funny that our intro says cunt when I look like this, huh? Hey, hi, wifey. Hi, Stephanie. Fucking top again. Now, hi, Hope. It's good to see you. Shameless plug. Got my shorty flip-flops. We call them thongs here. Love. I wear a 9 to 10 and the medium size is perfect. Mwah! It's so good to know. I think the sizes in the shoes are all pretty, what's the word? I was going to say fitting. Accurate? Size, correct? Wow, we're starting off well tonight. Me. Hi, it's me. Teresa's here. Good to see you, Teresa and Simi. Thank you so much. And Miss Steph for last week for dropping a comment on last night's stream and or some recent streams. It's very helpful. I know it's when we've been commenting all night, we've been in live and we've been in the live chat. Sometimes doesn't really occur to any of us, me included. I watch YouTube still, when you're not on Replay Crew, to leave a comment, but it really does help. And as we have talked about, Camp Shorty is very suppressed given the content matter these days, very shadow banned, very unpopular. Sadly, it's a censorship thing. It's nothing to do with, I mean, we are saving humanity here. So sleep's a bit long. So I'm going to just say again, Replay Crew, hi. And also Chatter's hi now here. Shorty's hi, I love you. Even if it's while we're live now, going back and dropping just anything, doesn't have to be glowing praise, although any comments on any and all of the streams you've watched with us here at Camp Shorty recently or ever, and I'll comment back. It could just be a heart or a roller skate or something. It doesn't. And Simi did some of these, which sign of love. It's I love you, right? Engagement helps. So, but also Replay Crew, hi, if you'd like to watch the live chat replay on your handheld device, easy peasy. All you do is go to the comment tab after you've left a comment, say, yay, can't wait to watch this, or yay, I loved it so much, or yay, Lisa, I love your glasses, thanks. Lisa, I love your blouse, thanks. Anything. And if you want to watch the live chat replay, go to those little dots up the top in the top right-hand corner and swipe left. It'll give you the option to watch the live chat replay. Because, and hi, Wes, good to see you. My friend Loops. Thank you. Tonight, with two streams tonight, we're going to, this is a last-minute thing. I'm like, this is something I wanted, when was it? The end of last year. So it's been a few months where I've had this in the back of my brain. That it would be worthwhile showing, screening, restreaming for you all, my beautiful shorties, and the broader YouTube's community. And then I think it's time. So I'm like, I woke up at 2:30 because why would you want to sleep in? I didn't set the alarm for 2:30, but here we are. And sometimes I'll go back to sleep. Yesterday, I woke up at the same time and went back to sleep for an hour, dozy. I'm old. I go to bed early. Although last night, I was kind of busy too doing work. I have only really worked. All I do is work again. What happened? I liked being lazy and work-life balance. No. So I woke up and I'm like, okay, I can't stop thinking about it. I will make a thumbnail. Chat GPT, problematic from a Palantir point of view and a worldwide Agenda 2030 surveillance thing, but also thanks for the art. And made the thumbnail. And so what's that? What's the point of all this? While this is, hi Buster, while this is a commentary channel, and if you don't like the commentary, I've linked the video we're going to watch. It's a 45-minute video. I've linked it down below. So don't come at me in the comments. I mean, you can actually, yes, come at me, bro. Like, fuck around and find out. Come at me, bro. Bussy. And tell me how annoying I am talking over the top of things, which sidebar, I don't. I pause it. Just play the video. Tell me how much you hate it. And then go to the the description box. The link of what we're going to watch is down below. Win-win. We all win. All we do is win. So I've written a little, no, I didn't do it. Joogle did it for me. In the description box, there's a brief little bio for Benjamin Freedman. But let me tell you. So we're going to watch this. Well, it's audio. So I'll have to play around with the layout of the screen because I'm going to try really hard not to interrupt much because I want for us to just listen together to this lecture that Benjamin Freedman gave at the Willard Hotel in 1961, right? It's amazing. Other than a couple of time-specific references to World War II and stuff, it could be so, and the verbiage is 1960s, right? Hence my glasses. It could have been this weekend. It could have been last night that he gave this talk. Except he's dead. So Benjamin Freedman. Let me. Can I find it? Let me find my own channel somehow. How do we do that? Why is it like this? And I'll read you the blurb, although by the time I found it, I'm sure you could also go there and find it yourself. But he died in 1984. He was born a Jew, but let me read it properly. Dougal tells me he's a rabid anti-Semite, so lol, and a Holocaust denier, lol. So we like him. I mean, I do. Let me see. Here we go. And also, by the way, right now we are on Rumble. I'm up on my own screen with audio. We're on Rumble, Kick, Twitter, and here on YouTube. I'm not sure if they'll like this, but we're watching a video that's on YouTube. So we'll fuck around and find out, won't we? Now, so the description box says, so I've been gradually attempting to unravel the heavy ziodoctrination that we've been fed for generations. The cognitive dissonance, I realize, is rough. After all the lies we've been fed, the goyslop, which is that's what the kids are saying now, the goyslop, coming to terms with the reality about this Talmudic tribe requires a whole lot of unpacking, which is what we've been doing. Don't take my word for it. Let's hear it from Benjamin Freedman, 1890 to 1984, who was an American businessman, anti-Zionist activist. So remember, Zionism is it's a supremacist mindset. It's an imperialistic colonial mindset, which says that those who subscribe, the Zionists, to the Zionistic mindset, believe in a right to a land of their own. The Jews believe they deserve to have their own place. It's a political thing, not a religious thing, but they co-opt it. So, but don't take my word. And former Jew who converted to Roman Catholicism. He is known for his vocal opposition to Zionism, his claims regarding the influence of Jewish people, and his promotion of Holocaust denial literature, particularly in his later years. So he started noticing too. So this is a Jew saying, it didn't really happen. And sidebar, spoiler alert, I was going to give you like a teaser, but I've heard this speech twice, now 3 times. I don't believe he mentions the word Holocaust at all, because this is 1961. That term, story, wasn't in the zeitgeist yet. It happened after. Same as it was a tactic, right? In my opinion. I just want you, anyway. So born into a Jewish family, he was a partner in the John H. Woodbury Laboratories, a dermatological institute from 1925 to 1937. He later converted to Roman Catholicism and became a prominent critic of Zionism, which he claimed was a political movement rather than a religious one. Friedman is famously associated with this is what we're going to watch, 1961 speech at the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C., where he alleged that Zionists influenced the United States entry into World War I. And then I've added my own little thing because this is Dougal. Note, there is absolutely no doubt that this is true. And then also per Dougal, he was known for promoting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Oh, all of the tropes of the slurs of they're fucking crazy, tinfoil hat. Okay, including those associated with Holocaust denial. eye roll emoji. He was linked to the Institute for Historical Review and was involved in activities aimed at opposing the state of Israel and Zionism. Ruthie, hi, good to see you. Monster trucks. Simi, thank you for grifting for me. I want to say a huge thank you to Hope and Loops, Wes, and Steve, NH Dude Steve, last night for showering me with griftiness. I love it. If you've got a couple of dollars spare and you want to support my work, because I am getting $0 from ad revenue, because either YouTube totally demonetizes, shuts the stream down, shadow bans and suppresses, or all of the above. So every little bit counts. I understand money's tight at the moment for all of us. I am currently running at a pretty heavy loss in dollars for Camp Shorty. So gross, hate it. Simi's going to griff for me. Thanks, Simi. You still go with the draw for, and I promised tonight in Tartaria, which is our second stream tonight. So this is only going to be short. I'm trying to try not to interrupt too much. Next up is Tartaria Part 3. Oh my God. It's really good. There's a redirect already set up, so we don't need to go anywhere. Oh, there's a little bug. Few more things and we'll get into it, because I need to get all my blah, blah, blah out. I'm talking fast, aren't I? Excited. I actually walked into my laundry. Oh, also the sheets are washing, so the washing machine will finish soon. I was so keen. I haven't been this keen to stream. Normally I'm like, oh, tired. Oh. I'm like, pep in my step. But the other thing I've done is, oh my God, we've got so many Miss Shorty music songs. I've been converting and swapping out some of as many of the songs that I can fit into the media assets file here. So, excuse me, that's exciting. It's very time consuming. And then because I love my music so much when I listen to it, and it's such a memory lane thing, I tweeted out a six song EP on the Twitters last night. Just a couple of six oldies but goodies, so check it out, listen to it. They're bloody good songs. Oh my God, I wish I could still write music, but writer's block's a fucking bitch. I've got one brewing about Tartaria, actually. I've got the chorus. God, but they never turn out well anymore. I don't know what happened. Oh well. Now Ruthie's going to take the pup for a walk. Amazing. We love body doubling. Kate Coco Zeitgeist, hi, it's good to see you. Now, so I promised I'm not going to say much, remember? Linked in the description box below if you'd like to watch this with 0 interruptions. I am going to try really hard to just listen. I promise. I know that. Like, I want you to have the impact. Also, because it's olden days, it's kind of crackly. He's talking in that olden days kind of voice. It's pretty cool. So let me do, here we go. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to hit the like, share this out, subscribe. Come on, subscribe, please, and thank you. We are pushing shit uphill here at Camp Shorty to try and go anywhere, to move the needle analytically. Now, share screen. Initially, it will be a weirdo layout because I haven't adjusted it yet, but I'll make it so that I'm bigger and he's small, because that's all it is. It's just this. So it's 45 minutes long, 46. I don't think I'll speed it up, although you can let me know if you want it a little faster. That's what she said. We're not in any rush. We start the next stream when we start. So let me press wait. Put my earbuds in my ear hole. Earbud in my ear hole. And make sure it's on volume. Yeah, let's do it. I'll put subtitle.
Mr. Freedman is a former Jew, and I mean a former Jew. He has fought the communist world conspiracy tooth and nail, and stands today as a leading American patriot.
No closed captions, sorry.
We now take you to the speaker's platform to present Benjamin Freedman.
The Zionists and their co-religionists rule this United States as though they were the absolute monarchs of this country. Now you say, well, that's a very broad statement to make, but let me show what happened while you were I don't want to wear that out. Let me show you what happened while we were all asleep. I'm including myself with you. We were all asleep. What happened? World War I broke out in the summer of 1914. 1914 was the year in which World War I broke out. There are a few people here my age who remember that. Now that war was waged on one side by Great Britain, France, and Russia, and on the other side by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. What happened?
Bit of feedback.
Within 2 years, Germany had won that war. Not alone won it nominally, but won it actually. The German submarines, which were a surprise to the world, had swept all the convoys from the Atlantic Ocean, and Great Britain stood there without ammunition for her soldiers, stood there with 1 week's food supply facing her, and after that, starvation. At that time, the French army had mutinied. They lost 600,000 of the flower of the French youth in the defense of their...
Pause just for a moment, not to interrupt for commentary, but I didn't recall it being this feedbacky, bit echoey. 2 earbuds works better for me. I'm going to have a look and see if I can find it on. It's on YouTube, plenty of places, because I don't know if that's bearable, particularly with no closed captions, because it's not available for this. So I'm going to go in the back end and see if I can find an alternative version.
Done on the Somme. The Russian army was defecting. They were picking up their toys and going home. They didn't want to play war anymore. They didn't like the Tsar. And the Italian army had collapsed. Now, Germany, not a shot had been fired on the German soil. Not an enemy soldier had crossed the border into Germany. And yet, here was Germany offering England peace terms. They offered England a negotiated peace on what the lawyers call a status quo ante basis. That means, let's call the war off and let everything be as it was before the war started. Well, England in the summer of 1916 was considering that seriously. They had no choice. They was either accepting this negotiated peace that Germany was magnanimously offering them, or going on with the war and being totally defeated. While that was going on, the Zionists in Germany, who represented the Zionists from Eastern Europe, went to the British War Cabinet, and I'm going to be brief because this is a long story, but I have all the documents to prove any statement that I make if anyone here is curious or doesn't believe what I am possible. The Zionists in London went to the British War Cabinet and they said, look here, you can yet win this war. You don't have to give up. You don't have to accept a negotiated peace offered to you now by Germany. You can win this war if the United States will come in as your ally. The United States was not in the war at that time. We were fresh, we were young, we were rich, we were powerful. And they told England, we will guarantee to bring the United States into the war as your ally, to fight with you on your side, if you will promise us Palestine after you win the war. In other words, they made this deal. We will get the United States into this war as your ally. The price you must pay us is Palestine after you have won the war and defeated Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. Now, England had as much right to promise Palestine to anybody as the United States would have to...
So if you can't catch it, he's saying Palestine. Steph says, "Who is this guy?" So I did just read the intro, but he's dead now. This is 1961. It's in the description box if you want to check out the description box. But he was a former Jew who converted to Roman Catholicism and was a staunch anti-Zionist. So and coming from a place of understanding the culture of and the religion and the mindset of Zionism and Judaism, only to denounce it, to rebuke all in the name of the synagogue of the Satan, and understand how evilly supremacist and devilish it is.
Promised Japan to Ireland for any reason whatsoever. It's absolutely absurd that Great Britain, that never had any connection or any interest or any right in what is known as Palestine, should offer it as coin of the realm to pay the Zionists for bringing the United States into the war. However, they made that promise in October of 1916. October 1916. And shortly after that, I don't know how many here remember it, the United States, which was almost totally pro-German, because the newspapers here were controlled by Jews, the bankers were Jews, all the media of mass communications in this country were controlled by Jews, and they were pro-German.
Thank you.
Because their people, in a majority of cases, came from Germany, and they wanted to see Germany lick the Tsar. The Jews didn't like the Tsar, and they didn't want Russia to win this war. So the German bankers...
I hate to do that. I'm going to pause. I know I said I wouldn't do many pauses, but yikes. Thank you so much, Teresa. You're in the draw. Now, the Tsar is so the Bolshevik revolution. Remember, we've spoken about that. I've told you about that. I hope you've gone and done more research. I have a feeling that maybe the 60 million number that I've quoted is a little inflamed, but details, pish posh. So the Tsar, remember Tartaria? It's all connected. So the Tsar. TZAR, TSAR, Russia, Ruski. They killed him. So this is all connected, right? Right? We get it? Yes, we get it. Carry on. And thank you, Teresa. You're very kind. Oh, and Miss Stephanie, blah, blah, blah. Girl. Mwah. Thank you so much.
German Jews, Kuhn Lowe, and the other big banking firms in the United States refused to finance France or England to the extent of $1. They stood aside and they said, as long as France and England are tied up with Russia, not 1 cent. But they poured money into Germany. They fought with Germany against Russia, trying to lick the Tsarist regime. Now, those same Jews, when they saw the possibility of getting Palestine, they went to England and they made this deal. At that time, everything changed, like the traffic light that changes from red to green, where the newspapers had been all pro-German, where they'd been telling the people the difficulties that Germany was having fighting Great Britain commercially and in other respects. All of a sudden, the Germans were no good. They were villains. They were Huns. They were shooting Red Cross nurses. They were cutting off babies' hands, and they were no good. Well, shortly after that, Mr. Wilson declared war on Germany. The Zionists in London sent these cables to the United States to Justice Brandeis. Go to work on President Wilson. We're getting from England what we want. Now you go to work, and you go to work on President Wilson and get the United States into the war. And that did happen. That's how the United States got into the war. We had no more interest in it. We had no more right to be in it than we have to be on the moon tonight instead of in this room. Now the world...
Simi said, I don't recognize anyone. This account, SK27 Music, is the amazing videographer who did the green card video for me. So there's someone in those few, but I know Stephanie's trying to get Teresa to be dressed in green. So yeah.
War One, in which the United States participated, had absolutely no reason to be our war. We went in there, we were railroaded into it. If I can be vulgar, we were suckered into that war merely so that the Zionists of the world could obtain Palestine. Now, that is something that the people in the United States have never been told. They never knew why we went into World War I. Now, what happened? After we got into the war, the Zionists went to Great Britain and they said, well, we performed our part of the agreement. Let's have something in writing that shows that you are going to keep your bargain and give us Palestine after you win the war. Because they didn't know whether the war would last.
Did he just say Persians? I was concentrating on more than one thing.
That shows that you are going to keep your bargain and give us Palestine after you win the war.
No.
Because they didn't know whether the war would last another year or another 10 years. So they started to work out a receipt. The receipt took the form of a letter, and it was worded in very cryptic language so that the world at large wouldn't know what it was all about. And that was called the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was merely Great Britain's promise to pay the Zionists what they had agreed upon as a consideration for getting the United States into the war. So this great Balfour Declaration that you hear so much about is just as phony as a $3 bill, and I don't think I can make it more emphatic than that. Now, that is where all the trouble started. The United States is in the war. The United States crushed Germany. We went in there and...
Loops, Wes is saying, tread carefully, Lisa. Remember what we spoke about? Yes, I don't, like, this is on YouTube, and it's a very fine line, the conversations we're having. I mean, I'm well aware of the verbiage that one needs to utilize, and you know, just try not to I always try not to use any inflammatory language. That's all. It's quite the task to choose my words carefully on these subjects, but I always do. I mean, most of the time. Macrame Chameleon.
History, you know what happened. Now, when the war was ended and the Germans went to Paris, to the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, there were 117 Jews there as a delegation representing the Jews, headed by Bernard Baruch. I was there, I ought to know. Now what happened?
The feedback.
The Jews at that peace conference, when they were cutting up Germany and parceling out Europe to all these nations that claimed a right to a certain part of European territory, the Jews said, how about Palestine for us? And they produced, for the first time, to the knowledge of Germans, this Balfour Declaration. So the Germans, for the first time, realized, oh, that was the game. That's why the United States came into the war. And the Germans, for the first time, realized that they were defeated. They suffered this terrific reparations that was slapped onto them because the Zionists wanted Palestine. And they were determined to get it at any cost. Now that brings us up to another very interesting point. When the Germans realized this, they naturally resented it. Up to that time, the Jews had never been better off in any country in the world than they had been in Germany. You had Mr. Rathenau there, who was maybe 100 times as important in industry and finance as Bernard Baruch in this country. You had Mr. Ballin, who owned the two big steamship lines, the North German Lloyd and the Hamburg American line, thank you. You had Mr. Bleichroeder, who was the banker for the Hohenzollern family. You had the Warburgs in Hamburg, who were the big merchant bankers, the biggest in the world. The Jews were doing very well in Germany. No question about that. Now, the Germans felt, well, that was quite a sellout. It was a sellout that I can best compare. Suppose the United States was at war today with the Soviet Union. And we were winning. And we told the Soviet Union, well, let's quit. We offer you peace terms. Let's forget the whole thing. And all of a sudden, Red China came into the war as an ally of the Soviet Union. And throwing them into the war brought about our defeat. A crushing defeat, with a reparations the likes of which man's imagination cannot encompass. Imagine, then, if we found out that it was the Chinese in this country, our Chinese citizens, who all the time we thought they were loyal citizens working with us, was selling us out to the Soviet Union, and it was through them that Red China was brought into the war against us.
So this is an important point. I'm just sending myself an email with all of my Tartaria links, if you're wondering why I'm looking down. But he's doing it. He's making an analogy and saying, hey, if this happened, we'd be pretty fucking mad, right? Well, it's exactly the same as what this happened. So I'm going to scoot back by. Oh, am I though? Did I? Yes, I did.
And we thought they were loyal citizens working with us, brought about our defeat, a crushing defeat, with a reparations the likes of which man's imagination cannot encompass. Imagine, then, if we found out that it was the Chinese in this country, our Chinese citizens, who all the time we thought they were loyal citizens working with us, was selling us out to the Soviet Union, and it was through them that Red China was brought into the war against us. How would we feel in the United States against Chinese? I don't think one of them would dare show its face on any street. There wouldn't be lampposts enough convenient to take care of.
Hi.
Imagine how we would feel. Well, that's how the Germans felt towards these Jews. We've been so nice to them, and from 1905 on, when the first communist revolution in Russia failed, and the Jews had to scramble out of Russia, they all went to Germany, and Germany gave them refuge, and they were treated very nice.
Sorry, I know I said I wouldn't pause, but let's just tease this. Has anybody seen the footage of the settlers, the so-called Israeli settlers, scurrying onto boats, piling onto boats currently now, leaving for Cyprus? So, and remember how I've told you a few times, but last night particularly, I mentioned over the course of written or modern history, these people, the Talmudic tribe, have been expelled from 109 countries over 1,034 times. What Benjamin Freedman is talking about now is that because of the Bolshevik Revolution, Russia expelled the Jews. Get out. They're one of the 109 countries. We're going to go over it next week when we cover the documentary called Jewish Ritual Murder. I'll give you some stats and I'll tell you all the countries and all the dates. So you can, you don't have to just trust me, bro. I'll give you receipts, right? So the Jews fled Russia to Germany, and Germany gave them a safe refuge, right? They had it the best they've ever had in Germany. They really did. And then there's that 80-year cycle, right? Steph, it doesn't really matter the history of Cyprus. All it is that there's a country opening their arms, like Germany did, like Palestine or Philistine did, and now Cyprus opening their arms to this group of people saying, we will keep you safe. Come, we'll give you safe haven. And then it's usually about an 80-year cycle. We're 2 years away. 1948 was when the Balfour Declaration gave a sovereign land, Palestine, to become Israel. secular so-called Israel. That's in 2 years, right? So we're in 26. In 28, that'll be 80 years. History repeats, man. So we are good at pattern recognition here, right? And it's not anti-Semitic to notice the patterns. And you have to ask yourself, why over the course of history have 109 separate countries on this planet expelled this group of people over 1,034 times? So countries have done it more than once. They've said, okay. It's like an abusive relationship, right? Psychologically or physically abusive relationship. Quite often we fall for the sweet talking and the, oh, look, I'm sorry, we didn't mean it, we'll never do it again, I'm so sorry. And you're like, okay, you're fine, you renege, right? And then sometimes it takes a woman or a man 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 times before we go, that's it, hard line in the sand, not happening anymore. We're not doing it again. So this is the same pattern. It's the same psychology, just on a macro scale over thousands of years rather than a micro personal scale over, a short period of time. So there are many lines, connections that we can make. There's a nexus here. Pattern recognition. We understand the psychology of humans. We're here at Camp Shorty, so we'll keep listening. Oh, my washing machine.
And here they sold Germany down the river for no reason at all, other than they wanted Palestine as a so-called Jewish commonwealth. Now, Nahum, Sokolow, all the great leaders, the big names that you read about in connection with Zionism today, they, in 1919, 1920, 21, 22, and 23, they wrote in all their papers, and the press was filled with their statements, that the feeling against the Jews in Germany is due to the fact that they realized that this great defeat was brought about by our intercession and bringing the United States into the war against them. The Jews themselves admitted that. It wasn't that the Germans in 1919 discovered that a glass of Jewish blood tasted better than Coca-Cola or Münchner beer. There was no religious feeling. There was no sentiment against those people merely on account of their religious beliefs. It was all political. It was economic. It was anything but religious. Nobody cared in Germany whether a Jew went home and pulled down the shades and said Shema Yisrael or Our Father. No one cared in Germany any more than they do in the United States.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Oy vey, it's a great shanda to the Jewish people.
Feeling that developed later in Germany was due to one thing, that the Germans held the Jews responsible for their crushing defeat for no reason at all, because World War I was started against Germany for no reason for which they were responsible. They were guilty of nothing, only of being successful. They built up a big navy. They built up world trade. You must remember, Germany, at the time of Napoleon, at the time of the French Revolution, what was the German Reich consisted of 300 small city-states, principalities, dukedoms, and so forth. 300 little separate political entities. And between that time, between the period between Napoleon and Bismarck, they were consolidated into one state. And within 50 years after that time, they became one of the world's great powers. Their navy was rivaling Great Britain. They were doing business all over the world. They could undersell anybody and make better products. And what happened? What happened as a result of that? There was a conspiracy between England, France, and Russia that we must slap down Germany. Because there isn't one historian in the world that can find a valid reason why those three countries decided to wipe Germany off the map for this reason. Now, what happened after that?
Feels a little bit like the situation in Iran, right? A little bit. Successful, thriving country, sovereign nation with their own beautiful history and culture, amazing people, thriving, smart, literacy, no degeneracy. These people don't like that. They want degeneracy and the decline of Western or Christian culture. They hate Christ. They hate Christians. They hate everybody that isn't Jewish. Jewish supremacists obviously there are individuals within that group that don't feel the same way, like Benjamin Freedman.
Germany realized that the Jews were responsible for her defeat. They naturally resented it. But not a hair on the head of any Jew was harmed. Not a single hair. Professor Tansel of Georgetown University, who had access to all the secret papers of the State Department, wrote in his book and quoted from a State Department document written by Hugo Schoenfeld, a Jew who Cordell Hull sent to Europe in 1933 to investigate the so-called camps of political prisoners. And he wrote back that he found them in very fine condition. They were in excellent shape. Everybody treated well, and they were filled with communists. Well, a lot of them were Jews, because the Jews happened to be maybe 98% of the communists in Europe at that time. And there was...
Sorry, I'm just going to pause so I can not hyperfixate. They don't really want sheep. They want us gone, eliminated, and to the chosen ones, to this Talmudic tribe, we, the Goyim, are less than human. We are subhuman. We are cattle to them. That's not me paraphrasing. That's their belief. Think of, I thought of this analogy before. Think of a bratty kid whose parents, who's a bully, a horrible, vile little shit, right? Whose parents tell him he's the best thing ever. His shit does not stink. He's amazing. He's better than everyone else. He's smarter. He's more cunning. He's more likable. He's more powerful. He's better than everyone. So he grows up there, and all of his siblings. They all are, even though they're objectively revolting children. And then those revolting children grow up and raise their children the same. They don't break that cycle. They perpetuate that delusion of grandeur, that narcissistic pattern of superficial, inflated ego, and that goes down and down and down. That's the mindset of anyone, obviously, again, objectively, who refers to themselves and believes themselves to be God's chosen people. In fact, if you've read the Bible, which I have now, and if you haven't for a while, it's not to be finding God or Jesus, just to get some context. There's a YouTube video. I watched it on YouTube. I listened to it. It's like 13 hours long, the whole New Testament. God gave them a choice, if you want to believe it, even whether it's the mythology or history or somewhere in between. God gave these people a choice. He gave them chance after chance after chance to behave in a Christian manner, to adhere to Moses' 10 commandments. They spat in the face of God over and over again. They were hypocrites. They were evil. They did all the bad things. And the New Testament is them going, is God and Jesus both, whether that's actual or mythological, as I said. And God and Jesus both said, you all had your chance. The Old Testament, you had your chance. We're done. So actually, while that once, in terms of the Bible, where they once were God's chosen people, Moses led them out, part of the seas, all of that stuff, saved them from the Egyptians, yada, yada, yada. But they fucked it. They fucked it because they were horrible little shits. How many chances do you give? God and Jesus said, again, truth, mythology, you had your chance. I'm not, boundaries. We're not doing it anymore. But they still believe that because if God, if it's true or not, their mythology tells us that it is, the Abrahamic religions tell us it's true, that they were God's chosen people. They're still holding on to that label where the whole way through the Bible, the New Testament, they are not. God and Jesus broke up with these people. And these people are still like, nah. They're like a stalker. Anyway, we'll carry on.
Some priests there, and ministers, labor leaders, masons, and others who had international affiliations. Now, the Jews sort of tried to keep the lid on this fact. They didn't want the world to really understand that they had sold out Germany, and that the Germans resented that. So they did take appropriate action against them. They, shall I say, discriminated against them wherever they could. They shunned them, the same as we would the Chinese or the Negroes or the Catholics or anyone in this country that sold us out to an enemy and brought about our defeat. Now, after a while, the Jews of the world didn't know what to do, so they called a meeting in Amsterdam. Jews from every country in the world attended in July 1933, and they said to Germany, you fire Hitler and you put every Jew back into his former position, whether he was a communist, no matter what he was. You can't treat us that way. And we, the Jews of the world, are calling upon you and serving this ultimatum upon you. Well, the Germans told them, you can imagine. So what did they do? They broke up. And Samuel Untermeyer, if the name means anything to people here, you want to ask a question? Well, I don't want to go by what they were called. We're now using English words, and what they were called in Germany is not very material, but they were communists because in 1917, the communists took over Germany for a few days. Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht and a group of Jews in Germany took over the government for 3 days.
Pausing for a minute because he's referencing 1933. So I've got something to show you, which I alluded to last night again. But Steph said, so before Christians, were they just Jews, Muslims, and pagans? Beside the other ones. So Muslims didn't come about until after about 400 AD, BCE, CE, current events. It depends who you ask that question, Steph. So the Muslims, no, they came after. It's very similar. I'm reading the Quran at the moment, and it's very similar, much more florid language because it's translated from Arabic. But they were mostly Jews and pagans. But Jews they believe in one God, Satan, but they acknowledge the existence of many gods. So they are I can't remember the word. It's not polytheist because that's more than one god. That's paganism. Anyway, I've been spending like 8 months trying to get my head around this, coming from a family of 2 atheist parents with absolutely no theological tutelage in my life. So but while I've got it paused because he's referencing 1933, let's go this and expand. If only I could. How do we do this? I said it's a video. How do I expand this? Oh, I might have to go to the actual thing. Here we go. Wait. Pause. Walk and talk. Okay. So expand. Make sure you can see it. I'm big. I'm in the way. Oh, they're going to fuck me with them. I'm worried about that music. Nobody likes to it. So it's just going and showing you that you can very easily find references to... did you see it? No, you can't see that because I'm so big here. Let me just pause it. Oh, it's got songs going too. That's great. I love that. Hang on. Let me make myself smaller and move myself out of the way a bit. And let's update that. Let's go back a bit and I'll read some stuff. So make sure you can see. Yes. This says, oh, wow, blurry. No, my eyeballs. My eyes don't work that well. Play. There we go. On April 1th, 1933, Just 2 months after Hitler came to power in Germany, the Nazis sponsored a nationwide boycott of Jewish enterprises. Though only partially successful, it served as a harbinger for more drastic policies to come. If you read Mein Kampf, which I have, Hitler didn't have any feelings about Jews either way. He never even considered them. Bit like I didn't until all of this came to light, and I noticed, and I am awake now. And then he realized that all of the degenerate, the brothels, and the usury, so the lending, usurious lending, which is charging interest, and it's what's the word? Dictated. They must charge interest to the goy, and they must not charge interest to their own people, to the Jews. It's part of their eschatology. And actually, the reason why Jesus flipped tables, if you know that story, the reason why Jesus flipped tables was because he went to the temple, and they were all there, and they had all, like, they'd made it trashy. And he was like, do not defile the temple like this. And he got pissed off and kicked them out. They didn't like it. They didn't like being told not to operate in their usury. God, I can't. Charging interest, being like kind of crooks, having stalls and shit in the market, in the temple, which is not what a place of worship should be. And he cracked it. And because he called them out on their bullshit, they got in the Romans' ears and got the Romans to kill Jesus on their behalf. It sounds a lot like things like lone shooters in today's time for false flags, right? Getting in the ear to get other agents, people with interests in the situation, to eliminate people. It's history just repeats. Change the details, change the method. And if you wonder why, and yes, they do, why Hasidic Jews spit on Christians, and even just any Jews. If you go to so-called Israel as a Christian and have any obvious, a cross or something, they literally spit on you. And you know what? Because the Jews spat on Jesus, and I'm not trying to be religious about this, but it's all relevant, right? Whether or not you believe the Bible to be real or somewhat real or completely made up, they believe it. Anyway, so let me keep reading this and then we'll go back to the speech. Where are we? Jews publicly declared war against Germany on March 24, 1933, starting with a boycott of German goods. And then Germany responded by closing Jewish shops starting April 1, 1933. So basically, don't shop here. It's BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction. So there it is. That's the start. You can see it better now. Usury. Thank you. You know me, McRae Chameleon. Okay, so we've watched that now. So I just wanted to show you that. So let me see if I can get back on the other thingamy. Yes, I can. Like a full professional. And then
3 days. In fact, when the Kaiser ended the war, he fled to Holland because he thought the communists were going to take over Germany as they did Russia,
600
and that
after.
he was going to meet the same fate that the Tsar did in Russia. So he left and went to Holland for safety, for security. Now, at that time, when
Loops, then it's not monotheistic philosophy. Sarah only said the terms DDG. Sarah, oh wow, actually, I'm making me bigger again. I've got tea to tell you all about Sarah, which she told me it's not secret. It's not secret tea. But she mentioned this term today, and I can't remember what it was. It was maybe it was monotheistic. Fuck, you could be right. Loops, I possibly stand corrected. I love learning, so that We'll do a Miss Short. We'll do a Baby Shorty short in a minute. Oh, we may as well unpause right now. Which one do we want? No, it's no. I said I was going to interrupt. We're not doing this. I'm not. We'll do it in the next one in Tartaria. Okay.
The communist threat in Germany was quashed. It was quiet. The Jews were working still, trying to get back into their former status, and the Germans fought them in every way they could without hurting a hair on anyone's head. The same as one group, the prohibitionists, fought the people who were interested in liquor, and they didn't fight one another with pistols. They did it every way they could. Well, that's the way they were fighting the Jews in Germany. And at that time, mind you, there were 80 to 90 million Germans, and there were only 460,000 Jews. Less than 1/2 of 1% of the population of Germany were Jews. And yet, they controlled all the press, they controlled most of the economy, because they had come in and with cheap money, you know the way the mark was devalued, they bought up practically everything. Well, in 1933, when Germany refused to surrender, mind you, to the World Conference of Jews in Amsterdam, they broke up, and Mr. Untermeyer came back to the United States, who was the head of the American delegation and the president of the whole conference, and he went from the steamer to ABC and made a radio broadcast throughout the United States in which he said, the Jews of the world now declare a holy war against Germany. We are now engaged in a sacred conflict against the Germans, and we are going to starve them into surrender. We are going to use a worldwide boycott against them that will destroy them because they are dependent upon their export business. And it is a fact that 2/3 of Germany's food supply had to be imported. And it could only be imported with the proceeds of what they exported, their labor. So if Germany could not export, 2/3 of Germany's population would have to starve. There just was not enough food for more than 1/3 of a population. Now, in this declaration, which I have here, it was printed and a whole page, in the New York Times on August 7th, 1933, Mr. Samuel Untermeyer boldly stated that this economic boycott is our means of self-defense. President Roosevelt has advocated its use in the NRA, which some of you may remember, where everybody was to be boycotted unless they followed the rules laid down by the New Deal, which of course was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court at that time. Nevertheless, the Jews of the world declared a boycott against Germany, and it was so effective that you couldn't find one thing in any store anywhere in the world with the words made in Germany on it. In fact, an executive of the Woodbury Company told me that they had to dump millions of dollars worth of crockery and dishes into the river, that their stores were boycotted. If anyone came in and found a dish marked made in Germany, they were ticketed with signs, Hitler, murder, and so forth, and like something like these sit-ins that had taken place in the South. R.H. Macy, which is controlled by a family called Strauss, who also happen to be Jews, a woman found stockings there, which came from Chemnitz, marked made in Germany. Well, they were cotton stockings. They may have been there 20 years, because since I've been observing women's legs in the last 20 years, I haven't seen a pair with cotton stockings on them. So Macy, I saw...
God, by the way, speaking of BDS, they're talking about boycotting and sanctioning German products, right? So in America, it's illegal to practice BDS, to advocate for boycotting, well, specifically so-called Israeli products, but in general, because they don't like it. They're happy to do it to others, but it's illegal. It's the hypocritical nature of it. And I think the word hypocrite is mentioned something like 17 times or more in the New Testament with reference to these people. So, I mean, self-fulfilling prophecy, really.
Macy boycotted with hundreds of people walking around with signs, murderers, Hitlerites, and so forth. Now, up to that time, not one hair of any Jew had been hurt in Germany. There was no suffering, there was no starvation, there was no murder, there was nothing. Now, that,
hi, Laura.
Naturally, the Germans said, why, who are these people to declare a boycott against us and throw all our people out of work and our industries come to a standstill? Who are they to do that to us? And they naturally resented it. Certainly they painted swastikas on stores owned by Jews. Why did a German go in and give their money to a storekeeper who was part of a boycott, who was going to starve Germany into surrender into the Jews of the world, who were going to dictate who their premier or chancellor was to be? Well, it was ridiculous. That continued for some time. And it wasn't until 1938 when a young Jew from Poland walked into the German embassy in Paris and shot one of the officials that the Germans really started to get rough with the Jews in Germany. And you found them then breaking windows and having street fights and so forth. Now, for anyone to say that, I don't like to use the word anti-Semitism because it's meaningless, but it means something to you still, so I'll have to use it. The only reason that there was any feeling in Germany against Jews was that they were responsible, number one, for World War I, number two, for this worldwide boycott, and number three, did I say for World War I, they were responsible for the boycott and also for World War II, because after this thing got out of hand, it was absolutely necessary for the Jews and Germany to lock horns in a war to see which one was going to survive. In the meanwhile, I had lived in Germany, and I knew that the Germans had decided Europe is going to be Christian or communist. There is no in-between. It's going to be Christian or it's going to be communist. And the Germans decided, we're going to keep it Christian if possible. And they started to rearm. And their intention was, by that time, the United States had recognized the Soviet Union, which they did in November 1933. The Soviet Union was becoming very powerful, and Germany realized, well, our turn is going to come soon unless we are strong. The same as we in this country are saying today, our turn is going to come soon unless we're strong, and our government is spending 83 or 84 billion dollars of your money for defense, they say. Defense against who? Defense against...
Again, this just exponentially multiply the dollar figures and the key players. Some of the key players are still the same. And this could be now. This speech could be now. History just nothing new under the sun.
40,000 little Jews in Moscow that took over Russia and then, in their devious ways, took over control of many other governments of the world. Now, for this country to now be on the verge of a third world war from which we cannot emerge a victor is something that staggers my imagination. I know that nuclear bombs are measured in terms of megatons. A megaton is a term used to describe 1 million tons of TNT. 1 million tons of TNT is a megaton. Now, our nuclear bombs had a capacity of 10 megatons, 10 million tons of TNT. That was when they were first developed, 5 or 6 years ago. Now, the nuclear bombs that are being developed have a capacity of 200 megatons. And God knows how many megatons the nuclear bombs that the Soviet Union has have a capacity. So, what do we face now? If we trigger a world war that may develop into a nuclear war, humanity is finished. And why will it take place? It will take place because Act 3, the curtain goes up on Act 3. Act 1 was World War I. Act 2 was World War II. Act 3 is going to be World War III. The Jews of the world, the Zionists, and their co-religionists everywhere are determined that they are going to again use the United States to help them permanently retain Palestine as their foothold for their world government. Now that is just as true as I'm standing here, because not alone have I read it, but many here have read it, and it's known all over the world. Now going to do. The life you save may be your son. Your boys may be on their way to that war tonight, and you don't know it any more than you knew that in 1916 in London, the Zionists made a deal with the British War Cabinet to send your sons to war in Europe. Did you know it at that time? Not a person in the United States knew it. You weren't permitted to know it. Who knew it? President Wilson knew it. Colonel House knew it. Others knew it. Did I know it? I had a pretty good idea what was going on, I was liaison to Henry Morgenthau Sr. in the 1912 campaign when President Wilson was elected. And there was talk around the office there. I was confidential man to Henry Morgenthau Sr., who was chairman of the Finance Committee, and I was liaison between him and Rollo Wells, the treasurer. So I sat in these meetings with President Wilson at the head of the table and all the others, and I heard them drum into President Wilson's brain the graduated income tax and what has become the Federal Reserve, and also indoctrinate him with the Zionist movement. And Justice Brandeis and President Wilson were just as close as the two fingers on this hand. And President Woodrow Wilson was just as incompetent when it came to determining what was going on as a newborn baby. And that's how they got us into World War I, why we all slept. Send our boys over there to be slaughtered, for what? So the Jews can have Palestine as their commonwealth. They fooled you so much that you don't know whether you're coming or going. Now, any judge, when he charges a jury, says, gentlemen, any witness that you find has told a single lie, you can disregard all his testimony. That is correct. I don't know from what state you come, but in New York State, that is the way the judge addresses a jury. If that witness said one lie, disregard his testimony. Now, what are the facts? The Jews, I call them Jews to you because they're known as Jews. I don't call them Jews. I refer to them as so-called Jews because I know what they are. If Jesus was a Jew, there isn't a Jew in the world today. And if those people are Jews, certainly our Lord and Savior was not one of them. And I can prove that. Now what happened? The Eastern European Jews, who form 92% of the world population of those people who call themselves Jews, were...
So they're the Ashkenazis, right? When I say the Ashkenazi Jews, they're the Ben Shapiros, all of the Hollywood stars. They're the ones that killed the Tartarians. They're the settlers. They're the New York Jews, the Ashkenazis. There are actual Arab Jews, so actual Semites. There are like African Jews, Sephardic Jews. There are different categories, but it's the Ashkenazis who kind of, in my opinion, co-opted and subverted the essence of Judaism a long time ago. And while the Talmud and the Torah are vile, evil books, and their mitzvahs are very distressing, and Noahide law is very distressing, it's all very clear what they believe, how they feel about us as non-Jews, as the Goy. The Rothschilds, all of those Illuminati families, the Cohens, the bloodlines, they're all Ashkenazi Jews, Eastern European Jews.
Originally Khazars. They were a warlike tribe that lived deep in the heart of Asia. And they were so warlike that even the Asiatics drove them out of Asia into Eastern Europe. And to reduce this, so you don't get too confused about the history of Eastern Europe, they set up this big Khazar kingdom. 800,000 square miles.
The Khazars.
Only
bad.
There was no Russia. There were no other countries. And the Khazar kingdom was the biggest country in all Europe.
Tartaria!
So powerful that when the other monarchs wanted to go to war, the Khazars would loan them 40,000 soldiers. That's how big and powerful they were. Now, they were phallic worshippers, which is filthy. I don't want to go into the details of that now. It was their religion, the way it was the religion of many other pagans or barbarians elsewhere in the world. Now, the king became so disgusted.
Think about the receipts, the despicable facts in the Epstein files. I'm going to ask Grok or ChatGPT to give me the number of Jewish names in those files, understand the Kabbalistic, satanic ritual abuse, killing babies, eating babies. That's all part of this. And again, I'll tell you, next weekend, we're going to watch a documentary called Jewish Ritual Murder, which outlines throughout history, it's like an hour and a half, this bullshit that's in the Epstein files now, throughout history, that's the main reason why this Talmudic tribe have been removed, thrown out of 109 countries, over 1,034 times throughout history. There's a reason. It's not like people just wake up and go, you know what, I fucking hate these idiots. I don't like them. Why? Reasonable people don't do that. Reasonable people assess patterns of behavior, see through masks, psychopathic and narcissistic masks. Eventually, sometimes it takes us a minute, right? 80 years, give or take. It's not for nothing, right? It's not for nothing. So, me included, I didn't just wake up and go, you know what, I hate these people. Why would I? I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anyone. I don't even hate the people who've fucked me over. I don't hate anybody. Well, I might hate a couple of people, but I generally, I'm a loving, inclusive person. So that's why I've hoped along the way that all y'all would trust me. We've lost a lot of people who obviously didn't trust me enough to believe that I wasn't just suddenly flipping on a dime and turning into a fuckhead.
With the degeneracy of his kingdom, that he decided to adopt a so-called monotheistic faith, either Christianity, Islam, the Muslim faith, or what is known today as Judaism, really Talmudism. So, by spinning a top, he said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and he picked out so-called Judaism. And that became the state religion, and he sent down to the Talmudic schools of Tel Aviv and Surah, and brought up thousands of these rabbis with their teachings, and he opened up synagogues and schools in his kingdom of 800,000 people, 800,000 square miles, and maybe 10 to 20 million people, and they became what we call Jews. There wasn't one of them that ever had an ancestor that ever put a toe in the Holy Land, not alone in Old Testament history, but back to time, the beginning of time. Not one of them. And yet they come to the Christians and they ask us to support their armed insurrection in Palestine by saying, well, you want to certainly help repatriate God's chosen people to their promised land, their ancestral homeland. We gave you one of our boys as your Lord and Savior. You now go to church on Sunday and kneel, and you worship a Jew, and we are Jews. Well, they were pagan Khazars who were converted just the same as the Irish. And it's just as ridiculous to call them people of the Holy Land as it would be. There are 54 million Chinese Muslims. 54 million. And Muhammad only died in 620 AD. So in that time, 54 million Chinese have accepted Islam as their religious belief. Now imagine in China, 2,000 miles away from Arabia, where the city of Mecca is located, where Muhammad was born, imagine if the 54 million Chinese called themselves Arabs. Imagine. Why, you'd say they're lunatics. Any man that believes that those 54 million Chinese are Arabs must be crazy. All they did was adopt as a religious faith a belief that had its origin in Mecca, in Arabia, the same as the Irish. When the Irish became Christians, nobody jumped then in the ocean and imported from the Holy Land a new crop of inhabitants that were Christians, that had Christian flesh and blood. They weren't different people. They were the same people, but they had accepted Christianity as their religious faith. Now these pagans, these Asiatics, these Turco-Finns, they were a Mongoloid race who were forced out of Asia into Eastern Europe. They likewise, because their king took the faith, the Talmudic faith, they had no choice. Just the same as in Spain. If the king was Catholic, everybody had to be a Catholic. If not, you had to get out of Spain. So everybody, they lived on the land just like the trees in the bushes. A human being belonged to the land under their feudal system. So they all became what we call today Jews. Now imagine how silly it was for the Christians, for the great Christian countries of the world to say, we are going to use our power, our prestige to help repatriate God's chosen people to their ancestral homeland, their promised land. Now, could there be a bigger lie than that? Could there be a bigger lie than that? And because they control the newspapers, the magazines, the radio, the television, the book publishing business, they have the ministers in the pulpit, they have the politicians on the soapboxes talking the same language. So naturally, you believe black is white if you heard it often enough. You wouldn't call black black anymore. You'd start to call black white, and nobody could blame you. Now, that is one of the great lies. That is the foundation of all the misery that has befallen the world. Because after two wars fought in Europe, World War I and World War II, it wasn't possible for them to live in peace and harmony with the people in Europe, like their brethren are living in the United States. What were the two wars fought for? Did they have to, like, flush the toilet because they couldn't get along? Did they have to say, well, we're going back to our homeland, and you Christians help us? I can't understand yet how the Christians in Europe could have been that dumb, because every theologian, every history teacher knew the things that I'm telling you. But they naturally bribed them, shut them up with money, shut their mouth with money, and now, I don't care whether you know all this or not. It doesn't make any difference to me whether you know all these facts or not. But it does make a big difference to me. I got, in my family, boys that will have to be in the next war. And I don't want them to go and fight and die like they died in Korea, like they died in Japan, like they died all over the world. For what? To help crooks hold on to what they stole from innocent people who had been in peaceful possession of that land, those farms, those homes, for hundreds and maybe thousands of years? Is that why the United States must go to war? Because the Democratic Party wants New York State, the electoral vote, Illinois, the electoral vote, and Pennsylvania, the electoral vote, which are controlled by the Zionists and the co-religionists, the balance of power. In New York City, there are 400,000 members of the Liberal Party, all Zionists and their co-religionists. And New York State went for Kennedy by 400,000 votes. Now, I don't blame Mr. Kennedy.
So this is 1961, 2 years before JFK, who obviously felt the same way as Benjamin Freedman, was standing up and was insisting that he see so-called Israel's nuclear weapons facilities, wanted to see what they had. And in fact, Israel eventually acquiesced and allowed, it was an asset. They spent months building fake walls and shit so that they could block off where the actual nuclear stuff was being manufactured and researched. And so this person, this delegate from the US, I can't remember their name, went over to Dramona, which incidentally just got bombed today. Iran targeted where the scientists are in the bunker, not the actual nuclear facility, but where their quarters, where they were hiding. Because Iran are not destructive. They just want to, they're not genocidal. They don't want to hurt people. They want to take out the infrastructure, right? So this delegate went and was toured around this sort of facade, this segregated safe. Like, see, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Went back to JFK and told JFK that it was all good there. And JFK didn't want to go to war in Vietnam. He didn't want to. There were so many reasons. And so two or so years after this speech was given, this lecture was given, JFK was killed by those same people. Same, man. Same. History repeats. Nothing new under the sun. And hi to all the new people coming in. Thank you for being here, Sanchalada Taro. I think I've seen you before. Sup? Good to see you. We're almost at the end of this. If you've missed it, you can go back and watch the whole the whole speech with my minimal commentary. Also, it's linked in the description box down below if you want to watch this or listen to this again without any of my interruptions. It's down there. But yes.
Fond of Mr. Kennedy. I think he's a great man. I think he can really pull us out of this trouble if we get the facts to him. And I believe he knows a great deal more than his appointments indicate he knows. He's playing with the enemy. Like when you go fishing, you gotta play with the fish. Let him out and pull him in, and let him out and pull him in. But knowing Mr. Kennedy's father and how well informed he is on this whole subject, and how close Kennedy is to his father, I don't think Mr. Kennedy is totally in the dark. But I do think that it is the duty of every mother, every loyal Christian, every person that regards the defense of this country as a sacred right, that they communicate not with their congressman, not with their senator, but with President Kennedy, and tell him, I do not think that you should send my boy or our boys wearing the uniform of the United States of America and under the flag that you see here, our red, white, and blue, to fight there to help keep in the hands of thieves that which they have stolen. I think everyone should not alone write once, but keep writing and get your friends to write. Now, I could go on endlessly and tell you these things to support what I have just asked you to do, but I don't think it's necessary to do that. You're above the average group in intelligence, and I don't think it's necessary to impress this anymore. But I want to tell you one more thing. You talk about, oh, the Jews. Why the Jews? Christianity. Why we got Christianity from the Jews? And the Jews gave us Jesus, and the Jews gave us our religion. But do you know that on the Day of Atonement that you think is so sacred to them, that on that day, and I was one of them, this is not hearsay, I'm not here to be a rabble-rouser, I'm here to give you facts. When on the Day of Atonement you walk into a synagogue, the very first prayer that you recite, you stand, and it's the only prayer for which you stand, and you repeat 3 times a short prayer, the Kal Nidra. You enter into an agreement with God Almighty that any oath, vow, or pledge that you may make during the next 12 years, the 12 months, any oath, vow, or pledge that you may take during the next 12 months shall be null and void. The oath shall not be an oath. The vow shall not be a vow. The pledge shall not be a pledge. They shall have no force and effect, and so forth and so on. And further than that, the Talmud teaches, don't forget, whenever you take an oath, vow, and pledge, remember the Kal Nidra prayer that you recited on the Day of Atonement, and that exempts you from fulfilling that. How much can you depend upon their loyalty? You can depend upon their loyalty as much as the Germans depended upon it in 1916. And we're going to suffer the same fate that Germany suffered, and for the same reason.
So, no, thanks. No, thank you. So that we made it. As you can see, my beautiful shorties, history repeats, right? It's all very relevant. Same. William said, I am the reason for everything you have seen thus far. I mean, maybe. I am no one. Glad you're all learning about the goyslop. You only know a bit of how bad it is. I hope it's enough more coming. We've been spending months on this. We've been gradually. I am fully aware. No need to black pill. But forewarned is forearmed, and I'm doing my best to impart my knowledge, understanding onto my beautiful community, you all, and hope that, like Hope says, interested to see what the conversation is going to be like on Monday morning at work. Start gently. You know your people. It's fun when people think you're a fucking lunatic, but that's fine. We just have to keep pushing. That's what I've been doing. showing you little bits and pieces, cracking open that door here and there, more so on Twitter with my posts and the things I share. Frankly, it's been really disappointing to see the number of people who've turned away, who simply don't have the capacity, the capability, or the willingness to open their eyes and take in new information and change their worldview. But those of you who I have and who remain and who are with me on this journey, I appreciate you all so much. Now, just in the nick of time, it is a very hard pill to swallow. Some people simply don't want to, and that's okay. That's okay. People who want to choose to stay comfortably numb and dumb and asleep, that's their choice. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Some people simply are so heavily indoctrinated and so numbed, so indoctrinated just with the slop. They propagandized, and this is all by design. It's we, the minority, who haven't allowed ourselves to be so heavily tangled up in it, so walled off. And it is a sign of intelligence to be able to open your mind and take on new information and reassess your opinions, your beliefs, and what you see to be true. And those who won't, it's ego, and those who can't, it's a capability thing. You know, it's like a ghost. You can tell a ghost over and over again that they're dead, right? And they will insist they are still alive because they don't know. The Rumsfeldian, you don't know what you don't know. So I was getting really frustrated with the number of people who were pushing back. Very surprising who those people were. It was making me really angry and sad and frustrated, like all caps mad, like not just all caps enthusiastic, all caps mad. And eventually I'm like, you can't wake everybody up. We can't save everybody, but and it's a lonely place to be, not with you all here, but it's a lonely place to be when good friends cannot, will not. And you have to just, that's the end of that season, right? So we have a redirect set up, so you don't have to go anywhere. What that means is if you stay to the end of the outro song, Chat is Bay, it will take you directly to the next stream, theoretically, but it's there lined up. It's Tartaria Part 3. And I've got so many cool things to show you. Oh, my God. So thank you all for being here. I love you all very much. Stay safe. We'll talk more in the next stream. I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, if you want to listen to it again, because it's hard when you're chatting and stuff and me interrupting. If you want to listen to it again, it's down there in the description box. So don't forget to leave a comment. Please, 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 please share it out. Share it with someone someone you think might find some kernel of a crack of light through that locked door of indoctrination. So I'll see you all in just a minute. I love you. Camp Shorty is Bay. Chat is Bay. Mwah. Thanks, mods. And thanks, girl. Thanks, Steph, for the gift of memberships too. And Teresa for the super sticker. I appreciate you very much. And see you in a minute. Mwah.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone bit off the rails, professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. you